Well, I only can deliver about 6% of the contracts that are outstanding each contract month. And so you're right about that. Switching back to the creature from Jekyll Island, it explains the formation of the secret formation of the Federal Reserve System and then its passage. The author lives in the Los Angeles area. Ed Griffin, he's been a very good friend of mine since 1964. We're both very old. And
me too.
He's done what's that?
Me too. I'm very old.
Yeah, well, he's 76. I'm 73. But the creature really does it. Especially, it's simple. Everybody can understand it, and it tells the heart of the story. And there are other books that go back and go into other things. There's probably a couple of thousand books on the subject, but I think his is among the best.
I've read it, and it's a seminal work. It is an amazing piece of scholarly work. It's hard to describe. All 600 pages.
Yeah, and speaking 600 pages, the stimulus package is more than that. I saw somebody holding up a copy of that stimulus bill that they have passed through the House yesterday. It is thicker than that. It's like 680 pages. But that's sort of as an aside. You just caught my attention with the number. When we come back after a break, I do want to get into a couple of other things. One would be dealing with where do we get the money that supposedly we're dishing out through this so-called stimulus package, and also just the idea of the corporate bonuses on Wall Street and the fact that they are continuing to be paid despite the recession that we're in, despite people losing their life savings in a lot of cases from 401ks and various portfolios, and yet the Wall Street fat cats continue to a large degree unabated. We'll talk more about that with our guest Bob Chapman in a moment on Financial Lifeline Radio. His website is theinternationalforecaster.com. Strongly encourage you to check that one out. Also visit our sponsor. We can get a chance, Superior Gold Group. They can be found at gold101.com. Stay tuned. Coming right back. Good to have you back with us on Financial Lifeline Radio. Dave Harbison, John Marchin, our guest Bob Chapman, author and analyst from the internationalforecaster.com. Talk more about the precious metals and in particular COMEX in a moment. Did want to ask you, though, Bob, as we talked about this spending plan that has just passed the House of Representatives, $819 billion plus $347 billion in interest. There's over $2 trillion that we need to fund our physical needs over the next 6 months. We don't have the money. We have to borrow it, obviously. Where are we going to get it from?
Well, that's a good question. The last year, the big buyer of Treasury paper and agency was the oil producers in the Gulf, $245 billion. The Chinese, $233 billion. And I think with lower oil prices that those Middle Eastern countries will probably be much less a buyer of U.S. Treasury paper and agency. And the Chinese, they're just full of treasuries now, and I don't think they want to do any more. And so you're right. And how are they going to do it? And, you know, the figure I came out recently with was somewhere around $2 trillion. And I noticed today that Senator Sherman came out with $4 trillion. And so that'll make you more comfortable. How do we get that money? We get it through monetization. And that means that the U.S. Treasury will print up the certificates for $2 or $3 or $4 trillion, and they'll hand them to the Fed, which will create money out of thin air and send the money as a credit over to the Treasury, and the whole deal will be monetized and go into the system, and it'll be extraordinarily inflationary to go along with all of the madness that's preceded us monetarily and fiscally to tie it into a nice little bundle.
That is just so horrifically inflationary that it boggles the mind.
No kidding.
It is. And what are we talking? Probably 30, 40, 50% inflation. And when is it going to start? March, April. What are we doing now? We're about 10% inflation right now, down from 13 and 5/8. And, you know, the government figures you can't believe anything they say. They're telling us the CPI is less than 1%, and that's the core figure. The outside figure is 2.5 to 3. The real figure is 10. They're talking about unemployment being 7.2%. The short term is around 10. The intermediate U6 term is about 15, and the long term is about 17 3/4. And incidentally, during the Depression, the average unemployment was around 30%. So we'll get there in about a year to a year and a half, probably in a year.
Wow. How about COMEX?
So what we're going to have is a depression that we just started that is highly inflationary at the beginning of the depression, and that'll probably last 2 or 3 years. No telling how long it will last, that's a guess. But after that, we go into the deflationary mode, and that's when gold is even more important because you have a store of value and everybody else has lost everything. And that's the time you walk into a big city with a handful of American Eagles and you buy a block of buildings. That's the way it's going to be.
Now, during this, because obviously smart people are going to be buying gold, and people on COMEX are going to want the delivery of their gold, is there a possibility of a default of COMEX?
Absolutely. In fact, I don't even know how they came up with enough gold to make the 20% deliveries, and of course, that's a guess. Because it's opaque. They won't tell you what they're doing. And I think they borrowed gold from somewhere. I don't know where, but they did. But they won't tell you. And this is not an open and free market. It's a rigged market. And so, yes, they could get in serious trouble because every month there's going to be more people taking delivery. And there's an effort behind that as well. And an effort behind it not only with the GATA people, but also large owners of bullion throughout the world. They're putting pressure. They'll go on COMEX and buy 20 contracts and say, okay, we want delivery, bang, bang. And I know in silver it's just as bad. 2 contracts somebody bought. They asked for delivery from Hong Kong Shanghai Bank. They can't get delivery.
Fascinating stuff with Bob Chapman, author and analyst from the internationalforecaster.com. Bob, thanks very much for your insight and expertise once again. Have a great day. Hope to have you on the show again very soon.
Well, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob Chapman from the internationalforecaster.com, joining us here on Financial Lifeline Radio. FinancialLifelineRadio.com is our website. Stay with us.